Robert Jenkinson 1812-1827. Robert Jenkinson, 2nd Earl of Liverpool, served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1812 to 1827. Born on June 7, 1770, into a prominent political family, Jenkinson's early life was marked by privilege and exposure to the intricacies of British governance. His father, Charles Jenkinson, was a close advisor to King George III, fostering young Robert's interest in politics and diplomacy from a tender age. Educated at Charterhouse School and then at Christ Church, Oxford, Jenkinson's academic prowess laid the foundation for his future endeavors in public service. Jenkinson's political career commenced with his entry into the House of Commons in 1790, representing Rye. His ascent through the political ranks was swift, and by 1804, he assumed the role of Secretary of State for War and the Colonies in the government of Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger. Jenkinson's dedication to public service and his keen intellect marked him as a rising star within the political landscape. The period spanning 1812 to 1827 was a critical juncture in British history, marked by the final throes of the Napoleonic Wars and the subsequent task of reconstructing a war-torn Europe. Against this backdrop, Robert Jenkinson's leadership took center stage as he navigated the complexities of international relations, economic challenges, and domestic reforms. Jenkinson's tenure as Prime Minister witnessed a confluence of transformative events, including the Congress of Vienna, 1814 to 1815, that aimed to reshape the European political landscape post-Napoleon. His strategic acumen and diplomatic finesse played a crucial role in securing favorable outcomes for Britain during these negotiations. Additionally, the economic landscape of the time was undergoing significant changes with the Industrial Revolution, and Jenkinson's policies were instrumental in guiding the nation through this period of economic transformation. Robert Jenkinson was born on June 7, 1770, into a family deeply entrenched in British political circles. As the second son of Charles Jenkinson, 1st Earl of Liverpool, and his wife Amelia Watts, Robert inherited a lineage of political influence. His father, Charles, was a confidant of King George III and served as the president of the Board of Trade, contributing significantly to the shaping of British trade and colonial policies. The Jenkinson family's standing in aristocratic society provided Robert with a privileged upbringing. The familial connections and exposure to political discussions within the household planted the seeds for his future involvement in public service. The influence of his family background, with its emphasis on duty and service to the Crown, played a pivotal role in shaping Robert Jenkinson's early worldview. Robert Jenkinson's educational journey played a crucial role in honing his intellectual capacities and preparing him for a career in politics. He attended Charterhouse School, a renowned institution known for producing statesmen and scholars. Later, he pursued higher education at Christ Church, Oxford, where he delved into classical studies and political philosophy. These formative years provided Jenkinson with a solid intellectual foundation that would prove invaluable in his political endeavors. During his time at Oxford, Jenkinson was exposed to the intellectual currents of the late 18th century, which were characterized by Enlightenment ideals and debates on political philosophy. Influential thinkers such as John Locke, Montesquieu, and Edmund Burke left an indelible mark on his political philosophy, shaping his understanding of governance, individual rights, and the role of the state. Jenkinson's political career began in earnest when he entered the House of Commons in 1790, representing the constituency of Rye. His early years in Parliament were marked by a rapid ascent, driven by a combination of his own political acumen and the mentorship of influential figures within the government. In 1796, he became Under-Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, a position that provided him with valuable diplomatic experience. The turning point in Jenkinson's political trajectory came with his appointment as Secretary of State for War and the Colonies in 1804, under the premiership of William Pitt the Younger. This marked his entry into the cabinet and signaled the beginning of a phase in which he would play a crucial role in shaping British foreign policy during the tumultuous years of the Napoleonic Wars. Jenkinson's rise in British politics was characterized by a combination of intellectual prowess, strategic thinking, and a commitment to public service. His early experiences in various governmental roles laid the groundwork for his eventual assumption of the highest office in the land. The circumstances leading to Robert Jenkinson's appointment as Prime Minister in 1812 were shaped by a combination of political developments, the exigencies of war, and the internal dynamics of the British government. Spencer Perceval, the sitting Prime Minister, was tragically assassinated in May 1812, creating a leadership vacuum during a critical juncture in the Napoleonic Wars. The assassination shocked the nation, and the political elite quickly sought a successor who could provide stability and strategic acumen during these tumultuous times. Jenkinson's reputation for diplomatic skill and administrative competence made him a natural choice to fill this void. As the then Secretary of State for War and the Colonies, he had already demonstrated his ability to navigate complex international relations and contribute significantly to the war effort. The King, recognizing Jenkinson's capabilities, appointed him as Prime Minister on June 8, 1812, just a day after Perceval's assassination. Jenkinson's early years as Prime Minister were marked by a series of key policies and initiatives aimed at addressing the challenges facing Britain at the time. One of the foremost issues was the continuation of the Napoleonic Wars. Jenkinson, with his extensive experience in foreign affairs, played a crucial role in coordinating military efforts with Britain's allies. His diplomatic finesse was instrumental in securing the cooperation of other European powers, culminating in the eventual defeat of Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Economically, Jenkinson's government faced the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution, which brought about significant social and economic changes. His administration introduced policies to navigate the transition to an industrialized economy, balancing the interests of traditional agricultural sectors with the burgeoning industrial ones. This era saw the consolidation of economic power and the emergence of the factory system, and Jenkinson's government worked to address the challenges and opportunities posed by these transformations. On the domestic front, Jenkinson implemented a series of social and legal reforms, reflecting his commitment to improving the well-being of the British population. These reforms touched upon issues such as labor conditions, education, and poor relief, aiming to mitigate the social consequences of rapid industrialization. Jenkinson's administration actively engaged in coalition building, forging alliances with other European powers opposed to Napoleon Bonaparte's expansionist ambitions. The strategic brilliance of the British forces, coupled with the resilience of their allies, ultimately contributed to the defeat of Napoleon in 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo. Jenkinson's adept handling of military affairs and diplomatic negotiations during this critical period played a crucial role in securing Britain's position as a major power in the post-Napoleonic era. One of the significant diplomatic achievements of Jenkinson's administration was the Treaty of Ghent, signed on December 24, 1814. This treaty marked the official end of the War of 1812 between the United States and the United Kingdom. Under Jenkinson's leadership, British diplomats, including Lord Castlereagh, negotiated with American counterparts to resolve long-standing disputes and bring an end to hostilities. The Treaty of Ghent affirmed the pre-war status quo, with no significant territorial changes. While it did not address some of the underlying causes of the conflict, such as issues related to maritime rights and impressment of sailors, the treaty nevertheless restored peaceful relations between the two nations. The diplomatic resolution of the War of 1812 allowed Jenkinson to focus on other pressing matters, including the post-war reconstruction of Europe and the shaping of Britain's global role. Jenkinson's influence on Britain's global standing extended beyond the resolution of specific conflicts. As Prime Minister, he was deeply involved in diplomatic efforts that aimed to reshape the international order in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars. The Congress of Vienna, convened in 1814 to 1815, brought together European powers to negotiate a framework for stability and balance of power. Jenkinson, represented by his Foreign Secretary Lord Castlereagh, played a central role in these negotiations. The agreements reached at the Congress of Vienna aimed to prevent the resurgence of a single dominant power in Europe, promoting stability and peace on the continent. The resulting settlement not only redrew national borders but also established a diplomatic framework that endured for decades. Furthermore, Jenkinson's emphasis on maintaining a strong naval presence and colonial holdings contributed to Britain's continued status as a global maritime power. His policies fostered British economic interests abroad, ensuring access to key trade routes and resources. The combination of diplomatic finesse, military strength, and economic influence solidified Britain's position as a major player on the world stage during the early 19th century. Robert Jenkinson's leadership during 1812 to 1827 was marked by a comprehensive approach to economic policies and fiscal management. The period following the Napoleonic Wars presented significant economic challenges, including the need for post-war reconstruction, addressing the impact of industrialization, and managing the national debt accrued during the conflict. Jenkinson's government implemented economic policies aimed at stabilizing the post-war economy. Measures were taken to reduce government expenditures and manage the national debt responsibly. Fiscal prudence was a cornerstone of his economic strategy, balancing the need for economic recovery with the imperative of maintaining financial stability. The government also recognized the transformative nature of the Industrial Revolution and sought to adapt policies to this changing economic landscape. Support for infrastructure development, including the expansion of transportation networks such as canals and roads, was part of Jenkinson's economic vision. These initiatives were geared towards facilitating commerce, connecting regions, and fostering economic growth. Jenkinson's commitment to addressing the social and legal challenges of his time manifested in a series of reforms aimed at improving the lives of the British populace. Recognizing the social consequences of industrialization, his government took steps to address issues related to labor conditions, education, and poor relief. Labor conditions. The rapid industrialization of Britain brought about significant changes in the nature of work. Jenkinson's government responded with legislation aimed at improving working conditions. While not as comprehensive as later reforms, these early measures reflected a growing awareness of the need to protect workers and set the stage for future labor reforms. Education. Jenkinson's administration recognized the importance of education in a rapidly changing society. Efforts were made to expand educational opportunities, particularly for the working class. While formalized systems of public education were still in their infancy, the recognition of education as a societal good marked a significant step forward. Poor relief. The economic transformations of the time led to social dislocation and increased poverty. Jenkinson's government sought to address these issues through reforms in the system of poor relief. While these efforts were not without controversy and did not represent a comprehensive overhaul, they reflected a recognition of the government's responsibility to mitigate the social impact of economic changes. The economic and social reforms introduced by Jenkinson had a tangible impact on the lives of the common people. Improved working conditions, albeit incremental, contributed to better standards of living for many industrial workers. The focus on education laid the groundwork for a more literate and skilled workforce, setting the stage for future educational reforms. The adjustments to the poor relief system, while imperfect, demonstrated a nascent recognition of the government's role in addressing social inequality. However, it is essential to acknowledge that these reforms were often gradual and incremental, reflecting the complexities of societal transformation during this period. The long-term impact of Jenkinson's domestic policies became more apparent in the subsequent decades as Britain continued to evolve socially and economically. In evaluating Jenkinson's domestic policies, it is crucial to consider the broader historical context and the challenges posed by the transitioning socio-economic landscape of the early 19th century. While not without its limitations, his administration's efforts laid the groundwork for subsequent waves of reforms that would further shape the trajectory of British society. The social and economic transformations brought about by the Industrial Revolution stirred discontent among segments of the population, contributing to public dissatisfaction and protests during Jenkinson's time as Prime Minister. Economic discontent. The economic policies implemented by Jenkinson's government, while aimed at stabilizing the post-war economy, were not universally popular. The effects of industrialization, including changes in employment patterns and working conditions, led to grievances among workers and communities adversely affected by these shifts. Protests and unrest. Various protests and acts of civil unrest erupted in response to perceived injustices and economic hardships. Workers, particularly in industrial centers, staged strikes and demonstrations to voice their concerns. The government's response to these protests, sometimes involving the deployment of military forces, further fueled tensions and public dissatisfaction. In the face of controversies and criticisms, Robert Jenkinson's leadership was marked by a nuanced response that sought to reconcile competing interests and maintain a semblance of order in a rapidly changing society. While not immune to public discontent, his pragmatic approach reflected an understanding of the complexities inherent in governing during a period of profound social and economic transformation. Robert Jenkinson's legacy in British governance is characterized by a combination of diplomatic successes, economic pragmatism, and contributions to the evolution of social and legal norms. While his policies faced criticism and opposition during his tenure, their enduring impact on subsequent political and social developments underscores the complexity and lasting significance of his leadership. The enduring impact of Jenkinson's policies is evident in various facets of British governance and society. Diplomatically, his emphasis on stability and balance of power, as exemplified in the Congress of Vienna, shaped the trajectory of British foreign relations for decades. Economically, his fiscal responsibility and focus on infrastructure development laid the groundwork for subsequent economic strategies, contributing to the long-term growth of the nation. Socially, while his reforms were incremental, they marked the beginning of a trajectory toward addressing the social consequences of industrialization and became integral to the broader social reform movements of the 19th and 20th centuries. Understanding Robert Jenkinson's role in shaping British history is paramount for a comprehensive grasp of the nation's development. His leadership during a period of profound change serves as a microcosm of the challenges faced by Britain in the early 19th century. By examining Jenkinson's policies, decisions, and the responses they elicited, we gain insights into the intricate dynamics of governance during times of war, industrialization, and social upheaval. Furthermore, Jenkinson's legacy offers lessons for contemporary and future leaders. His pragmatic approach to governance, ability to balance competing interests, and recognition of the need for adaptability in the face of change provide valuable insights for leaders navigating complex and transformative eras. In conclusion, Robert Jenkinson's political legacy is one that spans diplomatic achievements, economic stewardship, and contributions to social reforms. His influence endured beyond his time in office, shaping subsequent policies and leaving an indelible mark on the course of British history. Understanding Jenkinson's role is essential for comprehending the multifaceted challenges faced by a nation in transition and the leadership qualities required to navigate such transformative periods. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.